Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this webinar to demonstrate page linking and page level binding, which is available in TotalControl version 3.3.5 or later. We will start off our discussion about page linking by reviewing a slight change in terminology. Existing versions of TotalControl offered a right-click menu option for graphic pages called Duplicate, which created independent copies of the graphic pages. This feature is still available, however in TotalControl version 3.3.5 and later, this duplicate feature is now labeled as copy. Looking at the right-click menu for graphic pages in version 3.3.5, you'll also notice 5 new menu items relating to our first topic, which is page linking. The 2 primary choices in the menu that we'll discuss first are single linked copy and multiple linked copies. When users duplicate or copy a graphic page, it creates a complete independent copy of the target page. When a user selects single linked copy or multiple linked copies, Design Studio will still create copies of the selected page. However, this process differs from the traditional copy function because although the linked copy commands create additional nodes in the Site Explorer tree, there is essentially only one graphic page in the database. This way, if a user makes a change to the original graphic page, both the original page and all of its linked copies will reflect the same change. Users do not need to remember which page in a linked group is the original page. Regardless of if the user opens the original page or a linked copy, the designer will always open the original page. Users will also notice that when one page in a linked set of graphic pages is opened for editing, all linked copies will also be marked as checked out. If a linked copy needs to be removed from its group because it needs to be unique in some way, that can be accomplished by selecting the Unlinked Copy menu item. That will allow the selected graphic page to be modified independently of any other graphic pages. Before we demonstrate this feature in action, we need to discuss the second topic of page level binding, so let's jump to that now. Traditional element binding in TotalControl Graphics Designer is static. For example, let's look at a graphic page that has 3 elements on it for room temperature, room set point, and outside air temperature. Each of those elements have static references for the necessary properties, so if a designer makes a copy of this graphic page, they must modify those static properties manually to make them reference the new target device. This is traditionally accomplished using the Find and Replace feature. The new page level binding feature changes this process by adding 2 things. First, it adds the page device properties to the graphic page itself that include the service ID, service protocol, and device instance. Second, it adds a property to every bindable element named page level binding, which is either true or false. Now, although the content of the pages in a linked copy group is identical, the only thing that differs between the linked copies is the page level binding information. When the page level binding property is set to true on an element, it forces the element to use the page device binding information in place of its own. So for this very rough example, if a designer makes a linked copy of graphic 1, then changes the device instance property on the page device binding, graphic 2 will now pull values from controller 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. As seen in this example, pages may contain a mix of static and page level bound elements. When the page level binding property is set to false on an element, it remains statically bound, just as in previous versions. To demonstrate these features, we'll first look at a VAV page that has page level binding assigned. In this example, we're using device 20101, and each element on the graphic page has the page level binding property set to true. To create the graphics for the other 9 units, we'll first check in this page. Right-click on the graphic, select multiple linked copies, expand the tree to show the devices that we're looking to target, and click OK. When you click OK, Design Studio does 3 things. It makes 9 linked copies of the selected graphic page. It automatically changes the page level binding on each page to select the target device that we selected. And it also automatically uses the name of each device to name the resulting graphic page. For the second part of this example, we'll use the same job site where we have the 10 VAV pages, and the designer is now required to place an outside air temperature indicator on each page. In existing TotalControl, a designer would have to go into each of the 10 pages and update them individually to include this new indicator. In 335, the designer only needs to add the indicator to one page and save it. Once that is done, the same change is instantly adopted by all linked copies of that graphic page. To demonstrate, we'll open this first VAV page. Add an element to the page, drag in an outside air temperature, set up the formatting, and save the page. Now, since we didn't set the page level binding property to true on that one, that will remain static across all 10 pages. So if we publish these pages and open them up in our web browser, see that the page for VAV1 is pulling details from VAV1 as well as the static outside air temperature, and the same will be true for any of the other 9 pages that we have in this link copy group. That statically bound point remains the same. All the others are relative bound to the device. That will conclude our webinar for today. Thank you again for your time, and please contact us if you need any more information about TotalControl or any other KMC products.